On July 22nd, Larian has just revealed new changes coming in patch 7, along with the news that closed beta will be delayed. Let's go ahead and read through what Larian just posted. So it says, "Hey gang, well, the patch 7 closed beta was set to begin today, but while preparing the build for you, we were once more humbled by the classic lesson taught to every game dev while playing bug fix whack-a-mole. If you fix one bug over here, another one might still pop up over there. This happened with one of the fixes we wanted to introduce in patch 7, which caused passive roles to stop working. We're trying to figure out how we got here, so while we do that, we'll be pushing the closed beta back to later this week." So that's not too bad of a pushback. On the plus side, if you haven't yet registered for your chance to take part in the beta, you still have time. You can register to be randomly selected by visiting the Baldur's Gate 3 store page on Steam. To tide you over, we wanted to share with you a list of highlights from the patch 7 notes, which include over 1,000 fixes and improvements. How many of the bugs and exploits do you think are going to be removed? Probably quite a few. Larian continues by saying, "As well as the new evil ending cinematics, split screen improvements, and the modding toolkit, these fixes include making the way you use soap a bit clearer. We were noticing too many suspicious teeth marks on the bars, dissipating Gale's necrotic aura when it should dissipate, terrible vibes, and making sure Jaheira doesn't stop following the party after a long rest. She just needed a longer rest." That's actually hilarious, considering Jaheira's dialogue options are so funny if you talk to her. Also, by popular demand, you will now be able to turn on the honor mode mechanics in a custom mode playthrough. Select the option in the rule set drop-down menu and you're set for new exciting battle mechanics without the pressure of honor mode. That is a huge update. This basically means you can enjoy all of the really cool changes they made to bosses that come with honor mode without having to risk your save. Basically, if you die, it's game over, you lose your progress, and with this, you can basically enjoy the cool new mechanics of all these honor mode bosses without risking that single save. So definitely going to be doing that playthrough myself. For more information and some visual sneak peeks, you can also check out our latest community update. Remember that patch 7 will only be live in the closed beta on Steam for the time being, and we still expect to release it live to all players in September. Awesome, so not too far away. Spoilers, as always, some of these entries might contain spoilers, so proceed with caution. All right, here we go. Highlights. Introducing evil endings, brand new cinematic endings for the truly villainous playthroughs. Added our very own mod manager, which lets you browse, install, and use mods created by the community. I've never really used mods myself, but a lot of them look really cool, and hopefully this mod manager makes going into the world of modding a little bit less intimidating. Revamped split screen gameplay. When playing on split screen, the two halves of the screen will now dynamically merge together when player characters come close to each other in game, and dynamically split back up when the characters move apart. This revamp comes alongside many other improvements and polishes to improve the overall split screen experience. That sounds really cool. I've never actually played around the split screen, but that sounds very intuitive and that sounds really, really nice. Honor mode combat. Here we go. If Dror Ragzlin finds himself inside the spider pit, he'll try his best to befriend the spiders residing there with a new spell called Arachnid Compulsion so they can band together to fight the real enemy, you. Now that is really cool. Those spiders aren't super powerful, quite honestly, but that is still really cool. They do have a pretty nice ranged attack, and that's pretty awesome that he can make them band together to fight you, which is kind of cool. The Boule now has a new condition called Diamond Scales and a new legendary action called Shredding Scales. Now the Boule can actually be pretty strong if you encounter it, before level, 5 or 4. So this could be pretty interesting. Really looking forward to seeing what those abilities actually do. Malice Thorm has a new legendary action called Grasping Appendage. That sounds awesome. Added a new aura and spell for spectators, Panicked Sentinel and Ocular Nightmare, respectively. Sounds amazing. Chirai Sakan, the leader of the Githyanki ambush in Act 2, has a new legendary action called Soul Sacrifice. That fight can definitely literally catch you by surprise, but also is pretty tough. By the way, you can avoid that entire ambush if you just avoid the Kresh, but then you're missing out on some amazing loot. Chirai Harak, the Githyanki leader at the Knights of the Shield hideout, has a new legendary action called Tunarith's Embrace. Wonder what that is. And then we've got Pateris, the character many people probably miss. Pateris has a new legendary action called Patarian Dogma. Pateris on honor mode is probably going to really kill. Pateris has a lot of really, he's a strong guy. So I'm gonna look forward to fighting Pateris in honor mode. That'll be pretty interesting, or honor difficulty. When it comes to UI, they revised and reorganized the in-game video options to be more logical and robust. You now have an upscaling type dropdown, an upscaling mode dropdown, and an upscaling sharpness slider, followed immediately by the options that are affected by them. They updated the reactions UI so that you only have to toggle the reactions you want to use and then confirm them. This saves you from having to select do not react multiple times. I'm interested to see what that looks like. The reaction menu is pretty cool. You probably use that every single playthrough to decide what you just want to be used every time. Added a new equipment options menu to the character sheet on controller. I don't use console, but that's probably cool. The panel that opens to donate magic items to Gale will now also show items in your traveler's chest. Oh, that is amazing, because those are probably items you actually want to give to Gale, right? It also now indicates which items are currently equipped. That is super helpful. That is awesome. We noticed some of you hiccoughing bubbles. So the action for washing yourself with soap and sponges is now called use instead of consume. That's right, you consume the soap to wash yourself. Fixed your player character's name getting reverted to custom during character creation if you moved on to create your dream guardian and then went back to edit the player character again. Ah, okay, I see. So that's like a bug. Fixed the wrong spell ability showing up when selecting a feat during level up. Awesome. When it comes to art, added a new loading screen in Act 3 showing the busy streets of Baldur's Gate. That's awesome. Loading screen art is so beautiful. Fixed the skirt part of the adamantine splint armor missing for female dwarves. Never ran into that one. Fixed the adamantine scale male clipping on large male characters. I don't think I saw that one either. When it comes to gameplay, here we go, the big one. You can now start custom mode games using honor mode mechanics when starting a new playthrough. You'll be able to do this via the rule set dropdown. So excited to start playing that honor mode. I had an honor mode character, but I was just so slow with it I never really progressed because I was so afraid of dying. The kuo-toa that promised to build you an army will now support you in the final battle unless they all died in Act 1. I cannot wait to summon the kuo-toa. I love those guys. I hope they're pretty strong because in Act 1 they're not that strong, so we'll see how they do. The help that the Gondians promised for the final battle will now arrive in the form of a friendly steel watcher. Apologies from Xander Tubin for the delay. By the way, this was actually suspected in the game files. I think it was a bug. Gondians were supposed to give you that steel watcher from the beginning. I don't think this is new. I think this is just something that was already previously planned, actually. But so glad it's finally here. It's finally worth saving the Gondians because they had no advantage. You know, the deep gnomes would help you, but the Gondian, if you sided with them, but the Gondians never had any advantage, so there was really no reason to save them, but now there actually is. Next up, the hair color options in character creation will now remain accessible after you choose the bald hairstyle so that you can continue fiddling around with eyebrow colors. Oh, of course, that makes sense. Overhead dialogues that support multiple player characters can now involve characters assigned to different players. They were limited to characters controlled by a single player until now. This means that there will be more banter among player characters in multiplayer games. Oh, interesting. I never played multiplayer yet, but interesting that that was kind of a limitation previously. Group hide will no longer affect summons that aren't linked to the group in the party line. Oh, interesting. That's I didn't know. I guess summons would hide with you even if you unlinked them. That's interesting. Changed the behavior for selecting camp supplies for a long rest when selecting camp supplies that are stacked. The game now only takes what it needs from the stack. Oh, that's great. I thought it was so interesting when you'd click auto select and you would select more than you needed for the long rest, but glad that's fixed. You can no longer cheese the leap of faith trial at the Gauntlet of Shar by just clicking the final platform and letting your character pathfind their way there. Shar threatened to smite us if we didn't fix this one. Yeah, so that was a very handy bug, but you know, it's bug nonetheless, and glad that that's all fixed up now. Fixed a bug where resurrecting lae'zel on the beach in Act 1 would cause her to appear in the party line, but not in the world, preventing you from leaving Act 1. Oh my gosh, that's a killer bug. Patched up some save games where Gale still had his necrotic aura when he shouldn't on load. Oh man, that would be annoying. Fixed Minthara's body sometimes turning invisible on the level up screen. We sort of like the floating head and hands look, but hey, I never saw that one. All right, moving on to animation. Astarion now has idle animations at camp that aren't just him reading a book. Nice. I always thought that was like the only thing he did. Added a new idle animation for Minsk at camp. Boo may or may not have taught him some Tai Chi. That's awesome. Karlach will no longer brush the shaved side of her head. Yeah, I mean, that doesn't make sense, right? Polished the appearance of neck kisses in lovey-dovey scenes with Shadowheart on the Sharan path for characters with large body types and dragonborn characters. Yeah, there's been some interesting animations depending on if you make a really short character. I guess in this case, if you have a really large character, it looked a little weird, huh? Next up, writing and flow. Dotted some dialogue options and voiced lines into dialogues across the game to add more overall reactivity, particularly to account for edge case flows. That's awesome. You know, a lot of people on Reddit actually would say, oh, why aren't my companions reacting to this crazy scene that's happening? So really interesting, excited to see that. Kind of makes it more realistic, right? When your companions react to some crazy stuff happening. Dotted more Dark Urge reactivity, dialogue options, and narrator lines into dialogues across the game. Awesome. Yeah, Dark Urge does some crazy stuff. Would be interesting to see some more dialogue options and narrator commentary. Resolved an issue that had been rendering some romance party banters inaccessible while adventuring. Interesting. No idea what that's referencing, but maybe we'll run into it when we play next. Avatar lae'zel can now decide what she wants to do at the end of the game after the brain is defeated, even if she wasn't the avatar making the choices in the main dialogue. Interesting. Added a dialogue option asking for a kiss in more paths of Will's epilogue dialogue. That's interesting. So that basically makes it easier to get a kiss from Will at the end of the game. If you're in holographic form in the epilogue, Will won't automatically assume he's talking to lae'zel. Awesome. I didn't run into that one also. Gave Will a new greeting for romance partners in Act 3 and characters with really low approval. So that's cool. So Will's going to react to you a little more extremely, right? If you're romancing, you'll get a more romantic answer. If you got really low approval, maybe you're going to get a little more of a rude comment, so that's interesting. Companions should now be more sympathetic to Astarion fleeing from the sun. That's awesome. I always thought that was so silly how Astarion's like scrambling away and it's so sad and nobody really cares. So this is great that companions will now be a little more sympathetic to Astarion there at the ending. Added a new dialogue in which Karlach will react to Dammon if she finds him dead after he told her that he can help her. Awesome. Totally makes sense. There's definitely something, you know, Karlach really likes Dammon, so that makes total sense. And then we've got Minthara will now react if you knock her out in Act 1. Awesome. I always thought that was kind of weird how like we all knock her out and then in Act 2 she just doesn't even mention it. But yeah, glad that that's now, because it's such a common thing, right? That's how you get Minthara basically. All right, moving on to scripting. Fixed several issues related to resurrecting characters via withers, restructuring the party at night, and automatic camp night scenes that would trap you in an eternal slumber, unable to end a long rest. I've never run into that, thankfully, but that is a good one to fix. Fixed a bug causing Shadowheart to keep repeating one line when you talk to her after she's resurrected by withers from the Shadowfell. That sounds like a very game-breaking bug. I actually ran into that one with lae'zel instead of Shadowheart, just could never talk to her. Fixed a small flow issue preventing you from commenting on Gale's last name. Yeah, I never ran into that one either, but that's a good fix. Fixed several occurrences of Will still having an exclamation mark above his head when he already told you everything he had to say. Good bug to fix. When playing as the Dark Urge, Minthara will no longer act as though you accepted Ball when you've been stripped of his influence. That's a good one to fix. Fixed a broken kissing scene after you gave Shadowheart the Idol of Shar. I've actually never given Shadowheart the Idol of Shar. I'll have to do that my next playthrough. Fixed an issue where Jaheira would stop following the party after spending a night outside of the party. Fixed the rune tablets on the Nautiloid, sometimes not triggering the narrator's lines. Clerics of Lathander should now recognize his symbol on a Lathanderian amulet. That's huge. Very awesome fix. Ensured the avatar is prioritized as the main speaker in dialogues related to the Hag's Act 1 surrender. That's really big because you have to pass a couple rolls, and it's a very important dialogue because you can get +1 to an ability point by consuming her hair and going through those dialogue options. So if you get a character that just sucks at, you know, persuasion, intimidation, basically those charisma checks, you could lose a permanent +1 to your ability point. So That's really awesome. Usually your avatar is going to be someone with good charisma. Minthara does in fact now have something to say about Orin after you kill her. Awesome. Made the romance scene at night with Will in Act 3 unskippable if it triggers to avoid accidentally skipping it and not being able to finish the romance arc. Never romanced Will before, but glad that they fixed that. If Avatar Karlak and Will are partners and go to the Hells together, he'll now act accordingly during the epilogue. This is great. These are great fixes. Fixed Karlak's scene in Avernus not playing if you decided to go with her when playing as Will. A bug has been fixed so that Will now talk to his father if Ansur is defeated after the pact with Mizora is broken, but Ravengard is saved from the Iron Throne despite this to decide on his title. Oh, that's really cool. lae'zel will now wait a little longer for you at the site of her recruitment if you tell her you'll be back. Improved lae'zel's idle camp behaviors to align a bit better with the other companions. Kind of interested to see what that looks like. Fixed the fade to black after Karlak's scene in Avernus at the end of the game, which would give you a very brief glimpse of game developer land. That's interesting. Awesome that that's fixed. Breaking up with Karlak by speaking with another companion you're dating the morning after her romance scene won't block her dialogue anymore. Oh man, that's brutal. I'm glad that's fixed. Reinstated Gale's last line in his detailed explanation of Ceramorphosis and tweaked dialogue option to react to it. Awesome. Now that you can give Gale magic items from the Traveler's Chest, he will leave again if you refuse to do so. Cool. Patched up some save games that had a bug that would prevent the dialogue between Gale and Mystra at the end of the game from triggering. Fixed a bug that let you kiss Gale even if he was in a disguised form before confronting the Netherbrain. Also fixed this dialogue with him cutting off before you could give him a smooch. Reworked the script that determines whether a character is too busy to talk. This will prevent bugs like Minthara's dialogue not triggering at Moonrise Towers after you rescue her, and knock-on effects as a result of this, like not being able to rest or fast travel. These are great fixes that would definitely be very annoying if they existed, so very good fix of these bugs. Performance. Continue to make performance and stability optimizations across the game and implemented many under-the-hood code fixes. Optimized performance. This will have a more noticeable impact in areas with large number of NPCs, like the lower city, and will reduce peak memory usage when loading levels for the first time. It will also be noticeable when managing lots of loot, for example, when transferring everything from a camp chest to a character's inventory. Yeah, I've noticed like that slows things down, right? Like if you steal traders' entire stock, that's going to slow your game down. Lower city loading is slower than other acts, etc. So this is great. Cinematics. Reworked and revamped the cutscene that plays when you interact with Ansur's bones in the Worm Way. That's awesome. That's really cool that they reworked and revamped that cutscene. I remember I actually had a bug during that cutscene once where there was just a boat floating there. It was kind of weird, but glad that's revamped and reworked. And then finally, polished facial expressions and emotions across companion dialogues, including to the facial animations of your character during some kissing cinematics, including with the vampire lord Astarion. Very cool. Here we have a note at the bottom. Please bear in mind these are just some of the highlights from patch 7, and we will share the full patch notes once patch 7 is live for everyone. An awesome sneak peek, and I cannot wait to start playing patch 7. Definitely going to check out those honor mode bosses on a non-single save playthrough. Super excited for that. Can't wait to have the kuo-toa join me against the Netherbrain and the Gondians as well. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.